It was a late night, and Sarah had to drive back home after a long visit with friends. The air outside was cold, and the moon hid behind thick clouds, casting the road in a blanket of darkness. Sarah's headlights cut through the shadows, but the road stretched ahead, empty and desolate. She had driven this road 100 times before, but tonight felt different. There was an unsettling silence that seemed to hang in the air, as if even the wind had decided to stay quiet. As she drove down the long, winding road, the trees on both sides looked like black giants, their branches twisting and reaching out, almost like they wanted to grab her. Sarah shivered. The only sound she could hear was the hum of the car's engine, and the occasional squeak of the tires as they rolled over patches of gravel. It felt like time was slowing down, and the road ahead seemed endless. Suddenly, her headlights flickered. At first, she thought it was just a glitch, a trick of the dark. But then it happened again. The lights dimmed, then brightened. A cold chill ran down her spine. She quickly pressed the button to adjust the lights, but the flickering continued, as if something was messing with her car. Feeling uneasy, Sarah gripped the steering wheel tighter and tried to push the fear aside. "Just get through it," she muttered to herself. "It's just a bad stretch of road." But as the car rolled on, something strange caught her eye, a figure standing on the side of the road, just outside her headlights' reach. It was a man, tall and thin, with his back turned to her. He stood motionless, completely still, and the strange thing was, he was wearing a long, dark coat, despite the heat of the summer night. His hair was hidden under a hat, and he didn't seem to move at all, not even when she got closer. Her heart began to race. What was he doing out here, alone, in the middle of nowhere? There were no houses for miles. Her instincts told her to slow down, to keep her eyes on him, but she was scared. Her foot pressed down on the gas pedal without thinking. The car sped past him, but Sarah couldn't help herself. She glanced in the rearview mirror to see if he was still there. The figure was gone. A sense of relief washed over her. But as she continued driving, the unease still lingered. Her hands were clammy, and her eyes kept darting around, searching for any sign of movement in the darkness. The road seemed even lonelier now, the trees closing in, and the night getting darker with every passing second. Just as Sarah was about to let out a sigh of relief, the car's headlights flickered again. This time, they went out completely. The car came to a sudden stop, the engine sputtering and dying in the silence of the night. Sarah froze. She tried to start the car again, but nothing happened. The engine remained silent, and the light stayed off. Her heart pounded in her chest as she sat in the dark, the weight of the silence pressing down on her. She had no signal on her phone. No other cars were on the road. It was just her, alone in the pitch-black night. Then, she heard something. A soft tapping sound, like fingers drumming on the window. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She turned her head slowly, her eyes wide with fear. There, just inches away from her window, was the man. His face was now visible, and his eyes were wide and hollow, staring directly at her. His skin was pale, almost sickly, and his mouth curled into a twisted grin. He didn't say a word. He just stood there, his face pressed against the glass, frozen in terror. Sarah tried to scream, but the words wouldn't come. Her whole body was trembling. The man's grin grew wider, his teeth sharp and jagged, almost animalistic. He raised his hand and placed it against the window, his fingers leaving behind a streak of dark, sticky liquid. It looked like blood. Without thinking, Sarah grabbed the door handle and yanked it open, running out into the road, but her legs felt heavy, as if the ground itself was pulling her back. She stumbled forward, her breath ragged as she looked around, hoping to see some kind of help, but the road was still empty. The man was gone. Suddenly, the car engine roared back to life. The headlights blinked on, bright and steady as if nothing had happened. The road seemed peaceful again, almost unreal. The tree swayed gently in the wind, and the moonlight filtered through the clouds. Sarah didn't hesitate. She jumped back into the car, slamming the door behind her, and started driving as fast as she could. She didn't look back. And she didn't stop until she reached her house. That night, she tried to convince herself it was just a bad dream, but something was different. The memory of the man's face haunted her every time she closed her eyes. And the worst part? She couldn't shake the feeling that he was still out there, waiting for her to drive that lonely road again. The next morning, when she went to check her car, she noticed something strange on the passenger side window. There, in the glass, was a faint, bloody handprint. No one believed her when she told them. But Sarah knew the truth. Something evil had been following her that night, and it might still be out there, watching.
Please subscribe, like, comment and share this video. It means a lot to us. Thank you.